Hello everyone, it's me again, Slide99 aka No-Brainer. Welcome to a slightly different Star Wars Destiny episode. We got some spoilers that were released, and I asked you guys if you wanted to hear me talk about them, and you guys said yes. Well, some of you guys said yes, and more importantly, no one said no. So we're going to talk about this, we're going to see how this works. Before we begin, I'd just like to say what you're looking at in the background. Very nice. All praise the internet for giving us these free, beautiful little animations like this that I was able to find off of a place called VDevo, which is a nice free little website that allows you to look at these things. And yes, because I don't have a webcam. Well, I do, but it's terrible. So I don't have a webcam. So I needed some sort of overlay that would give me the edge over the Smuggler's Den podcast. So I decided the best way would be to have an animated background. Ooh. So, I don't want to be derivative. A lot of people have already talked about the cards. If they haven't, they're going to be talking about the cards. So I'm not going to talk about the absolute basics of the cards. I'm just going to go into a bit more detail of how I think they would be used and such. Because otherwise this could easily be like 2-3 hours long, honestly. For only 8 cards and there's 160 of them, this is not sustainable. So let us begin with the one at the very top of the list. Thrawn, the Master Strategist. He's at the top of the list of the Star Wars Destiny DB cards section, which is why he's top of the list here. After you activate this character, you may choose a number, then look at the opponent's hand and discard a card from it that costs the chosen number. Why did I read that out? This would take even longer if I do. But that is an incredibly powerful ability. You can choose a number and discard a card from an opponent's hand that's equal to that number. So you say, I'm going to choose 0. Go away, fast hands. Go away, 4 speed. Go away, hit and run. Or I'm going to choose 5. Go away, Millennium Falcon. I'm going to choose 3. Goodbye, Thermal Detonator. Goodbye, Rocket Launcher. This guy has a really high ceiling. He'll take if you really know the matchup and you're pretty certain you know what your opponent's deck is, you can really just get rid of their key cards, their key win conditions very easily. In a 30-card deck, just getting rid of like a Palpatine's Rise Again could absolutely destroy that entire deck. And finally, we have a card that can deal with Sith Holocron. So yes. He also has 12 health, which is really high for his point cost of 14-17. And by really high, I mean it's slightly better than average. And he has Mon Mothma dice of the 1 focus and the 2 focus. But then he also has a 1 disrupt and a 2 on the resource. Now, the 2 on the resource is a really good side because that's the first grey 2 resource we've ever had on a character, and that's amazing. This guy is going to generate a lot of money, and the disrupt is very important because this guy is red. Because one problem when you're looking at this guy, 14-17, you've got to ask yourself, who do you pair with him? That's not an easy choice because red does not have good mill built in. You can go with blue, get you out your Dooku or your Vader. They have no disintegrations. They have some good force powers. They would really enjoy having a Thrawn on their side. But the mill is kind of lacking. And I don't think there's going to be a damage deck that works with Thrawn. Unfortunately, his 17, for an elite version of Thrawn at any rate, that 17 is really high. But I can see a 16. I can see like a Dooku Thrawn potentially sort of thing. But red does not currently have any built-in mill. So if you're looking for milling, you're probably going to be going yellow. And, well, Unkar fits in there very well for a 10-13 character, for your second elite there. But other than that, you're not looking at too much. This guy does not have a range side, so you can't really use the loose ends very well. But he does have the advantage over a normal Vader Unkar or a Vader Jabba or Dooku Unkar or whatever. He has an advantage over that in that he is red specifically, so Imperial Inspection can bounce cards around. And I do believe will be seeing in the future a mill card for red, because blue and yellow both have them. Red's gonna get something, because red doesn't even have upgrades with mill sides. Those are all in the blues and yellows. And one interesting matchup that I would like to play him in, just to see how well the deck goes, is Vader Thrawn. That's 2 dice! You have 2 characters, 2 dice, only 2 dice. But you have 2 guaranteed mill from activating each of them. And it has 25 health, which isn't terrible. So if you have the command center, Vader, and Thrawn, you go turn 1 tap Thrawn, turn 2 tap Vader, turn 3 claim the battlefield. That's 4 mil per turn. You can do really well by turn 4 or 5, you know? There's opportunity there. It's not going to be very good, guys, but that would be fun to try at any rate. Alright, looking at the next card then, we have a card that I was really excited for. Mace Windu! Finally, heroes get their own Vader. Finally. He has 12 health, which is 1 less than Vader. But those sides, those damage sides are so consistent. He's basically aura in terms of just damage, but he doesn't have to discard cards for it, you know? He's got a 2-side, a 2-side, and a 4-side for a resource. And that 4-side of a resource is very strong, especially with cards like Guard and Destiny. You can just guard on that 4-side to just get rid of 4 dice. That's absolutely ridiculous. Or Destiny for 4 to get a 4-cost upgrade out is also ridiculous, although perhaps not something you'd want to actually run necessarily. But Mace Windu is incredibly consistent. He's miles ahead, better than Luke in terms of consistency. 2, 2, and a 4. That's just great. However, Luke, if you have someone with like Mars with Luke, you can still get Windu-like things. But his action is also pretty good. Remove this dice to defeat a character with 2 or less remaining health. That's actually really good. Well, okay, it's a terrible action in general, but it's better than having no action at all, and it can get around Force Illusions and a lot of shields and stuff like that. Can't get rid of Second Chance though, because Second Chance says instead of being defeated, and this is to defeat. So it's the same kind of thing as Crime Lord in that respect. But so fun. I really want to play this guy. His point cost, however, 1622. 16 is the same that we've got for Obi-Wan and Luke for their 1 dice. Actually, I think Luke and Obi-Wan are 15, but it's basically the same thing in a hero deck. 16, because there's no 15 cost heroes at all. So the 16, I don't know if you'd ever be used in that, but that'll be interesting. The 22 for his elite sounds very crippling compared to Luke and Obi-Wan's 20. But those dice are great, man. And I've heard people say though that they're going to want to pair him with Mars to get that consistent 4. So to roll out that 4 very consistently, Mars and then Mars's focus. But I don't think that's correct, because it'll be 2 damage because you're looking at maximum potential damage. If you look at maximum potential damage, his maximum potential damage is 8. His lowest is going to be 4, because it's very unlikely you're not going to be able to get out a roll 2 melee sides, really, honestly. Like, especially with rerolls, there's very little chance he's not going to be able to do 4 damage in a round, provided he doesn't get removed. So the partner I would pair him with is the hired gun. Now, that might be surprising, and I'm hoping that in future sets we're going to find cards that will make that pairing work. But your potential damage maximum goes from 8 to 11. 11. It costs 3 resources, so you're not going to be able to do it turn 1, but 11 maximum potential damage. There is no characters in the game that can do that purely off of character dice. 11 is the best we will ever see. Palpatine's biggest strength is that he can do 10. Okay, that's not Palpatine's biggest strength. Palpatine's biggest strength is consistency. But he can do 10 as his maximum. And that feels crippling, and these guys would be able to do 11. Also, the resource sides from the higher gun are very useful for paying for Mace Windu's 4 damage per resource and stuff like that. So I really hope that pairing works, and that's the pairing I'd like to see. Alternatively, we could see some new characters come in that could pair well with him, but for 8, you're not looking at generally very much, and hired gun is really good for 8. Of course, blue-red is something I always like to play with Luke Akbar, and there is only one red character you could pair this with, and that is the Rebel Trooper, and the Rebel Trooper is a terrible combination with this guy. You have 19 health and they don't synergize in the slightest, and it's terrible. But I really like the idea of Mace Windu Hired Gun. You know, I should probably do Luke Hired Gun just to see how it goes. It would be terrible, but I just at least build it and just have a look, see if the card pool actually supports them. Because, you know, I really feel like a Mace Windu High Gun would actually work really nicely. Of course, at 22, he can't be paired with Rey. He can be paired with Acolyte, some people are suggesting that, and that is also potential. That's maximum 10. Acolyte has really good... she costs less for her weapons, really useful. You can get a 1-cost Vibro Knife on, and then you can pay and afford one of those 4 costs. And the Acolyte herself does have a focus side. So that's also quite nice. So maybe that'll work, but... I really want to see Mace Windu High Gun work. I love playing High Gun, guys. And speaking of cards that can work very well with him, we have the Master of the Council. Hooray! That sounded sarcastic. No, really, hooray, woo, yes, awesome. We have a 4-cost upgrade that deserves its 4 cost. As a Luke Akbar player, those resources hurt to spend. Hero Blue, is really, really low on resources. Destiny is kind of a trap card. It does not work out very well most of the time. So I am so happy to see a 4-cost card that's actually worth being a 4-cost in Hero. See, villains, they don't care. They can just holocron things out. They have Enrage. They have this lot. They have this. They have that. They have all their bait and switches. They don't care. But heroes are poor. Blue heroes are poor. So this is going to be great. You got your +3 and your +4 and your melees. They're not base sides, but I don't really care that they're not base sides. They can synergize very well in a Luke Akbar deck, for example, with an all-in. They can do well with the Luke Rey with an all-in, all that sort of stuff. But they don't need an all-in because Luke Rey. But it's not going to be hard to pair that up this with these damage sides with actual damage, base damage. You've got Rey's staff, you've got Fibro Knife, all this sort of stuff. It will not be hard at all. And then you got your 2 shields and your 2 resources. Those are the same as the one with the Force, not very great. And then you've got your special, which is exhaust the upgrade and spend 2 resources to ready a character. A repeating leadership effect. This is an end game card. This is a card that once you get this on a character, you say, I might just win. And that is awesome. Because right now in Star Wars Destiny, there's a curve, okay? And at the lowest end, where it's 1 resource, where they cost 1 resource, you've got some of the most effective upgrades. You've got your 0 cost really with your fast hands, your 4 speeds, but then at 1 cost you've got your your baby blasters, you've got your Journals of Ben Kenobis, you've got your there's plenty of cards. You got promotion. There you go. There's another one. Promotion right there. There you go. And then at your 2 cost you've got some decents, but not quite as big of a leap. Your holdout blaster is not quite going from 0 to 1 is a much going from 0 to 1 you lose. How can I say this? At 0, you've got some great dice. At 1, you've got great dice, but it's slightly less. At 2, it gets even slightly weaker. So that each stat point on the dice, each effective power level of the dice decreases over time. If I was to plot a graph, you could plot a curve of the power to resource ratio, and that goes down the more resources that are in the card. So, but this one might break that cycle for being an actual 4-cost card. You know, you got what else do you have that's 4 cost? You've got your one with the Force, which is a good card, but requires you to have other dice out there, which definitely reduces its power level. And then you've got Mind Probe, which is also a good card, but neutral. And when I say good card, I mean it's an okay card. It's got a 3 for a resource, which is the same as you would find in a lightsaber, and the same you would find in a Rey's staff. And then you've got the specials, which are generally going to be 3 damage. You got your Force Lightning, which is really just a 3-cost upgrade. Honestly, let's be honest here. It's a 3-cost upgrade that costs 4 simply because of Sith Holocron, really. But then you got this one, which is really, really good. Now, the FFG article does suggest that he works really well with Mace Windu because you can Destiny that 4-cost straight onto Mace Windu, and, you know, it's Mace Windu picture, generally speaking. If the picture matches the character that you're going to be playing on, is generally a good card for that character. And you can definitely see why reactivating Mace is going to be great. But then you'd have to pair a blue character with him because you don't really want to put that on Mace himself because it's not like One with the Force, which basically has a weaker version of redeploy. It's not a redeploy card either. If the character dies, you lose a lot of that investment. But I really want to see this on Mace Windu. I really want to see this on my Luke. And let's not forget as well that the type of cards that are in the Hero Blue is a lot of mitigation, a lot of soft mitigation, I should say. They don't have cards like Isolation, but they do make up with Overconfidence, and they have defensive stance and cards. They're generally a lot better at keeping their character alive, but generally have a much lower damage output than Vader. Bait and switch and force strike and lightsaber throw versus defensive position and guard. Defensive stance and guard, But you can keep a character if you can keep your characters alive. This will eventually get you a ton of added value. And also, a lot of those cards are also 0 and 1 cost, which allows you to have the resources necessary to spend for that special. Overall, just an absolutely great card, which will change Hero Blue. Hopefully for the better. And I expect to see this a lot more in play. Speaking of cards that are blue that need to be on a different character, we have Ezra Bridger. Is that how you say it? Ezra Bridger? Force sensitive thief. You may play blue upgrades on this character, ignoring play restrictions. That's cute. Don't expect that to really do anything unless later in the set we get some more blue character onlys. One big thing about a lot of the hero cards, about the hero force powers, is they're rubbish. You're using a lot of the neutrals. You're using your force training, which is spot a blue. You're using your Makashi training, which is spot a blue. You're tending not to use, if you're using the hero's ability, hero's stuff, the force power stuff, you're tending to just have spots rather than blue onlys. Apart from with Force Throw and with One with the Force, those are really the only two exceptions. So this upgrade ability, this special, not really going to see that much play unless some other cards in the set come out for it. But he has a 1 ranged, a +2 ranged, a 1 disrupt, 1 resource, and a special, which is take a resource from an opponent, which is effectively a disrupt and a resource, but really just a disrupt because as a disrupt, your opponent then spends the resource and then you can't actually get it. But other people have talked about that. But he's also a 7/10. A 7/10. The first Heroes 7 cost in the game. Ooh, 7 cost. Finally, Heroes 7 cost. Heroes can now run 5 dice. You put him at 10 cost. You put Rey, and then you put Mars. That's a 10 cost. That's a 30 point lineup. Pretty terrible dice, in all honesty. But that's 5 dice, and 5 dice can mean a lot of resource generation. And he's Balatik. He doesn't have as good of an effect as Balatik, but he's 1 less, and that's a really good thing for heroes. But one thing very important to note here is that as a unique character, this isn't Stormtrooper, right? As a unique character, you can only play 1 of him, which means that even though 5 dice is on the table, you still can only have 3 character lineups with heroes. You need a second character with 7 cost in order to have a 4 character lineup. And I think that's how FFG is going to do it. They've talked about not wanting swarms in the past. I think they're going to have the villains having 4 characters 4 dice, and the heroes having 3 character 5 dice. So the villains have more HP because they have more characters, but they're slower and take longer, whereas the heroes have more heroic characters that do more, but can die quicker. I expect that's what you're going to see here. I would like to see this guy paired up with Chirrut in some way. There might be a way to do it. With Chirrut, a 1 dice Chirrut is 22. There might be a way to do something with that. I really want a Chirrut to work. Chirrut's in a position where I really want to use ranged damage dice with him, but there isn't any ranged damage dice dealers that synergize with his 12-16 point cost. Well, okay, you could have Han or Poe or Baze at the 12 for the 18, but then if you're only running a 1 dice Chirrut, you might as well be running a 1 dice Rey, blah 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 blah. This guy could work with it, but at only 7 health. Once again, this guy goes down really fast. But at 10 cost as well. He works with Luke, and he works with Obi-Wan. You're finally getting an elite character combination with 4 dice right there. A Luke and an Obi-Wan with the extra 2 dice. That might make up for the Vader Raider, right? Vader has a really good synergistic partner in Raider. Luke can have a good synergistic partner with Ezra. Ezra does have range sides rather than Luke's melee, but one thing Luke really wants is for someone else to be able to hold force speed. Because Luke wants that other character to activate with the force speed on them, roll the force speed special, then claim that special so that Luke can roll and resolve in one turn. In one action. Yeah, one turn, should I say. Luke really wants that, and that's why Luke Rey is seeing a lot of popularity, amongst other things. Rey has actually become a great partner with Luke, specifically because of force speed, and I did miss this in initial. I need to test that, but I did miss that in a lot of initial looks. But the force speed on someone other than Luke gives Luke a lot of extra power, and having Urza be able to hold the force speeds for Luke is going to be useful, very, very useful. Alright, moving on to the next thing then. Those are the 3 characters and the 1 upgrade. And now we have 4 events. We have Prepare for War. If you're the very start, gain a resource. That's interesting. That's very conditional, but that's very interesting. You've got cards like Lockdown, which allows the villains to claim the battlefield after the opponent's claimed it, so that they get the first next turn. Director Krennic really likes having that battlefield, but Krennic's probably going to just be outclassed by Thrawn. But if Krennic gets to survive, he needs to go damage. He needs to be the damage character with a card like Balatik or something, because Thrawn has now taken over the mill for Krennic. So he's hoping Krennic can get a damage card, and this would actually be very useful in that type of deck. Gaining a resource is no joke. Just turn 1, play it for a resource. I'd also be interested in playing this in my IG-88 FN deck, potentially. Just for basically a blowout at the start, just being able to turn 1, get a resource so that I can play a 3-cost weapon on FN right at the start. That's just great, I'm looking forward to seeing if this card does well. It might not, but it'll be interesting. And we also have another claim card that can also help with that. That can also help with taking over the battlefield and starting the next turn, no matter whether your opponent claimed first or not. And that is the Day is Ours. Yes, I've gone a bit out of order here. The Day is Ours. Claim the battlefield, even if opponent has claimed it this round. It's a 2-cost lockdown that works properly. Lockdown doesn't actually work with Direct Krennic Balatik because you need to spot 2 reds. So here's hoping Direct Krennic gets an 11-cost red character to work with him. But anyway, the Day is Ours. Claim the battlefield. One thing I really don't want to have happen right now, despite how much I want to play Mace Windu Hired Gun, is I don't want these cards to enter TTS yet. Ice Cobra kind of probably is like, I have a duty to put these in. But claiming the battlefield means you get to use the battlefield's ability, and you claim the battlefield, obviously. Claiming the battlefield procs Planetary Annihilation. Planetary Uprising, not Planetary Annihilation. Planetary Uprising. Planetary Uprising is featured very heavily in Poe Maz. Poe Maz don't need to use their resources for very much. Poe Maz would absolutely love this card. And I mean love this card. Being able to use a Poe special, no matter whether your opponent actually has the battlefield or not, is huge. And then activating Planetary Uprising on that is also huge. If your opponent has killed your Poe and you just have your Mars left, and you have 2 Planetary Uprisings, turn 1, the Day is Ours. Turn 2, claim the battlefield. You have just done 8 damage in 2 turns without rolling out your character. That's probably enough to win you the game, honestly. That's huge. I'm so happy we don't have to deal with this right now, and I really hope there's a Poe Maz killer in the future. Or a Poe Rey killer. Rey could also use this very effectively. Poe Rey. Can you just imagine hit and run into Vibro Knife on Ray, into the day is ours, into Claim, so both post specials get used, and the both rising. Oh god, 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 god. Last two cards, moving back into order here, we have Ruthless Tactics. Resolve one of your dice, increasing its value by the resource cost shown on it. People play Natural Talent, right guys? The one cost red hero card, which increases the resolve by 1. Increases the value by 1. Yeah, people play that, right? That's very often in a lot of decks. So I'm sure because of that, Ruthless Tactics is clearly going to be used in a lot of decks. It's definitely going to be seen just as much as Natural Talent is. It's going to be great. In all seriousness, though, if they do have a card that has a resource cost of 2, this will be great. The fact that it costs 0 itself actually is a little bit better for cards like FN. FN's dice. Being able to throw out a 3 is not terrible. Having a Tuscan be a 4 for 1, being equivalent of Mace, is not terrible, but there's just going to be better cards you can use for this slot in general. But it doesn't require to be red only like Imperial War Machine, though, so that's not too terrible. There might be something that you could find on this. And it's resolve one of your dice. It's not necessarily resolve a damage dice. So, I don't know, maybe if there's a 3 for a 1 mil card, I don't know. I don't see this getting play, but I could always be wrong. There's so much of the set available. But in this current meta, I would not play it, really. Maybe with an FN. That's it. And finally, the last card here, we have Quick Escape. I had to slow down a little there because I was getting my transition going. There we go. Remove up to 2 dice showing damage. You must pass all your future turns this round. Hero only. But a very interesting card. It costs 1. And people look at this and you'll think to yourself, that's not very good. So basically it's the equivalent of, instead of claiming, I get to remove up to 2 dice. That's alright, I guess. That's alright. I could see that working in a Han Ray especially. Oh, no. Pass all of your future turns. Ambush gets you an extra action within the turn. So if you can give this card Ambush, like you can give Never Tell Me the Odds Ambush, oh, you can still claim the battlefield after this. I can see some sort of combination with Ray in a Han Ray that uses Quick Escape, resolves a bunch of damage, and claims all at once. I can definitely see that taking place. And that is scary. Maybe this would be enough to make a Pomaz run infamous. I don't know, but for a 1 cost, removing 2 dice is great. That's incredibly good. And I'm a little scared of this. Han Ray has never been a deck I like to play, and it's going to be good for that. It's going to be good for that. But it's our hero-only card. Villains can't really use it, and villains would like this card a lot. There's quite a few villain decks I would know that would like this card. They're mill decks. A lot of villain mill decks would like this card. An Unkar deck would like this card. It'd be very nice to have, but that's not going to happen. It's only a hero card. Well, there we go. This was quick enough. This was a quick little podcast, guys. Give you my thoughts on this. They're very brief, but I've tried to cover things. There's a lot more that could be said, but I've tried to cover things that I just wanted to say myself of my own insights rather than things that other people have already mentioned. Go to the Knights of Ren, go to the Smokeless Den, go to... I think Double Blanks Gaming has done something on this. Jedi Council will probably do something on this. Go to these other cards, have a look, take a look what they say, and assume it applies to everything else, plus what I've said. Hopefully I wasn't too repetitive. Because that's one thing I really didn't like about the spoilers in Spirit of Rebellion, is that everyone was always saying the same thing. But let me know what you guys think of this, and let me know what you guys think of the fact that I have a cool animated background! Take that, other podcasters! Honestly, I watch podcasts audio only, so I personally would not be able to even appreciate the full grandeur of this. But it took me like an hour to set this up, guys. because in order to set this up, I had to get out of OBS and download the update. I was using OBS version 0.6, and I had to update to OBS version 19.02. And then I had to learn a program all again. So I hope you guys are happy. This is me, Gameslide99, aka No Brainer. Hopefully this all was worth it. If you liked it, if you liked this video, please let me know so that I'll do more of these. If not, oh well. Signing off.